niile dịrị Chineke ụbọchị dị elu Chukwu obiọma Chidi ebere Olisa nwa amara ka ụzọ anyị na ọbụla niile bụrụ ihe ka ihe ọbụla kpatara aka bụrụ sọ mma ka ụwa niile site n'oziọma anyị a nwụsị obi aṅụrị taa na ebighị ebi ọfọ ya gazie ise. All praises to Chi the Creator, the Supreme Being, Chi the Good, Chi the Merciful, Chi the Magnificent with grace. Let every way of our lives be light. Let all our acts be crowned with good. And may the world prosper from our ministry now and forever. So let it be. Amen.
And so it is.
Yes, yes,
Dibia
yes.
Good morning. Good morning.
No.
You know, you have to be positive.
You have to.
That's going on in our world.
You
right
have
now.
to.
You got to be positive and always know who's in charge. Man is not in charge. Chineke is in charge. And that should put a smile on our faces, knowing that sooner or later, everything will be righted.
You said.
Welcome.
You said.
Welcome, Dibia. Thank you for the prayer. Welcome, everyone, to Chism Live. Welcome to the Dibia Round Table. I'm your host, Dibia Ochoaja, Dr. Wonyohu Simmery, and my co-host is Dibia UD Onyoha.
Yeah, guys,
I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today for our discussion on Chiism, African spirituality, tradition that's proliferated by the great revelator, K.O.K. Onyoha Obaja, who is resting Ago, our
may he reincarnate
our divine guidance. And of course, championed by Queen Mother Noha, Ngozi Onyoha, and all the honorable ancestors who have gone before us. Mamano, goodness to everyone, wherever you are. You know what? That's all you're going to get, because what you want is what you're going to have. It doesn't matter what anybody else tries to do to dampen your spirit or make you feel like this day is not going to go well. Yes, it will, because it's all up to you and up to the divine. It's already set. It's already going to be a good day. You know, we'll just have to block the noise of the world now and then. That's what we must do, because otherwise we'll be so distracted and get depressed by what's going on in our world. Today, we gather not just to share knowledge, but to honor the connections that we have with the living and the spirits that guide us. It's a blessing to be here together. And I want all of you who are joining us today, I want you to know that you are loved and cherished. And we appreciate you in this space. Now, as we have our discussions today, Dibia Chiedozie is going to join us at some point today. Let us begin with a libation ceremony, which is a sacred tradition that honors our ancestors and the energies that surround us. Please take a moment to reflect wherever you are on those who have gone before us, who have come before us, as we pour libations. I'm just gonna, but I just went ahead and got this little plant. Do you see the plant next to me? I just went ahead and got this little plant. It's doing so beautifully because you know what? I pour libations every day in this plant, And so in this sacred space, we gather to honor the divine and the honorable ancestors, calling forth their presence and their protection. We pour libations today, standing united, invoking the powerful forces of the universe to encircle us with a shield of divine energy. All libations today, we call upon the ancestors, our great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers, asking them to intercede on our behalf. May their wisdom guide us, may their spirit stand between us and any harm that seeks to approach. We ask for a protective shield, veil around all of us, around the men in our communities, around the men in our communities, so that they fortify their strength and their resilience, because there's so much going on around our men, and we want the spirit of the ancestors to guide them, to shield them from all the things that are coming out against them, because we need them. We need them to be whole. We need them to be healthy, mentally and physically. Somebody say. And let the divine, the great ancestors, put their loving arms, envelop in a nurturing embrace around our women, empowering our women to rise and lead. We ask for the children to be cradled in wisdom, guided in their journeys, knowing the paths that lead to brightness and fulfillment is theirs. And our pour libations, to invoke the energies of Ndiche, of our ancestors. And we say that any negativity that comes our direction will be rendered powerless. If those who have all ill intentions will become blind in our presence. Say, any evil that dares to approach us will be dispersed as easily as the wind blows away the clouds.
Oh, fuck you, got it.
We seek the protection from our own missteps. What's happening in the world today is the missteps of humanity. The choices we're making that's not serving the highest good. As we navigate our own personal lives, may we be open to the transformative, and this is important, transformative potential that awaits us when we align with divine guidance, because we're not being guided. What's going on in the world today has no divine guidance. It's man ruling man, thinking my way or the highway. But that is not how Chineke operates. When you step away from divine guidance, you create chaos. You leave the world in chaos. The world is in chaos right now. We need to be redirected and aligned with divine guidance. Let this blessing resonate through the day. Mototo, mogere, mabale. And even through every moment that follows, may we be shielded by the love and wisdom of our ancestors and the divine Chineke. Filled with the hope for the countless blessings yet to come. Let us not despair. Let us not look at what's going on in our world and think there's no future. There is future, but it's in our hands. We have to do the right things. We have to realign with the divine, with the ancestors, so that our way, our path will be smooth and free of obstacles. Chineke ifenila ka anyị na-arịọ, a na-akpọku ndị ancestors anyị
For
Obi Wonsa.
no, my boss, Lucy, Uncle Lord,
Martin Luther King,
Mandela,
Mandela,
Window, Julius Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta,
he said,
Nkrumah, Tolbert,
he said, they were
all
of them.
You know, Sankara, Biko,
yes,
all of them, all our heroes that are no longer with us, the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's and the Marcus Garveys, all of them.
He said, we call, and those that we didn't call doesn't mean that we want to be disrespectful. It is just that we don't know them all, but we know that they are there. And so we say, Yagazie. And I just take a little bit and just throw around me to keep the energy around me positive, and all the negative energies sucked down to the rivers below our feet. So it'll be washed down the road. Yagazie. There's nothing that you can start if you do not start with pouring of libations. It's a given. It's a must. Mm-hmm. So I am so grateful that we are able to do that this morning. Welcome, Yudi.
I'm
still waiting for your children.
I'm not born, but I ain't got help.
That's okay. That's okay. We're not worried about that.
One challenges over there. We know they have challenges back in Nigeria. So whatever those challenges may be is probably why he's not with us right now. But we keep him in our prayers and hope that everything is good. And when he has the time, he could join it. If it doesn't, the train keeps moving, and hopefully we'll all hook up again the next program. So let's go.
Before we go any further, I just kind of want to brag a little bit, Yudi. Sometimes we got to pat ourselves on the back and say, okay. Elisa said, if you don't pat me on the back, if you don't praise me, I'm going to praise myself. So I just want to share that yesterday I received the Women of Impact Award by the Women Ministry of Atlanta, Georgia. I am so proud. And I'm so grateful to them. It was a wonderful event. And I'm I was really blessed to be amongst such powerful women. And there were some gentlemen there as well. And this was a wonderful honor, and I do appreciate it.
Hey, we appreciate your effort. We appreciate your effort, because I'm a firm believer in, here's my hand, right? And I get some oil on this one, right? And before I know it, I got oil on all my fingers.
Yes.
So, as far as I'm concerned, it is kudos to not just you, but to Chisholm Live, to Global Faith Ministries of Chisholm, to UMSI, to the African calendar, because you are the oil, the palm oil that got on this finger that now ended up spreading to all of this. So if it touches this, it touches us all. So we appreciate it, period. The Onyoha family and everything else that is associated with the recipient of that award, we all walk with you. We are basking in that glory. So the more awards that is bestowed upon you, the bigger our crown gets. So it's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. Hey, we have a very, very important program today. The topic on the table today is reparations for slavery. And this happened at the United Nations. They have changed the discussion about reparations. For many years, Africans in the diaspora have been asking for reparations, even at least the acknowledgement that wrong was done to the Africans from the continent and brought here. And it was just absolutely something to see. And more kudos to Ghana for their hard work, for making sure that this was brought to light. And I welcome all the viewers to ask questions, regarding this matter. But before we go any further in the discussion, I would like to play a quick video highlighting what happened at the United Nations. Here we go.
Election on the International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery and the Transatlantic Slave Trade, a day when humanity pauses to remember millions of women, men, and children whose lives were stolen, whose dignity was denied, and whose humanity was questioned, yet whose resilience reshaped the moral arc of our shared history.
The Assembly will now take a decision on draft resolution A/80/L48 entitled Declaration of the Trafficking of Enslaved Africans and Racialized Chattel Enslavement of Africans as a gravest crime against humanity. A recorded vote has been requested. We shall now begin the voting process. Those in favor of the draft resolution A/80/L48, please signify. Those against and those in abstention.
The Assembly is now voting on draft resolution A/80/L48 entitled Declaration of the Trafficking of Enslaved Africans and Racialized Chattel Enslavement of Africans as the gravest crime against humanity. Will all delegations confirm that the votes are accurately reflected on the screen? Please lock the machine.
The result of the vote is as follows. In favor, 123, against 3, abstentions 52. Therefore, draft resolution A/80/L48 is adopted. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The United States remains steadfast in its opposition and condemnation of historic wrongs that resulted from the transatlantic slave trade, trans-Saharan slave trade, and all other forms of slavery.
Well, I would like to just celebrate all those who favored that this gesture is at least the world that what happened to the African was not acceptable. And I'm not, quite frankly, I'm not interested in hearing anybody's reasons for not voting for it. I'm sure they all had their reasons. But the important thing is that on the 26th, for the record, the United Nations passed this significant resolution calling for reparations to address the historical injustices of transatlantic slave trade. No matter how you put it, it was an injustice done to a race of people. And it was good that 123 people, 3 countries rather, were in favor. We understand that 3 nations, Argentina, Israel, and United States, voted against it. Additionally, there were about 52 countries, including the United Kingdom, and all 27 members of the European Union chose to abstain. Very interesting because these were countries that were actually engaged in the slave trade. But they all had their reasons, and I'm not going to focus on their reasons, okay? But this decision made by 123 countries is a pivotal moment in addressing historical injustices. It had to be said, you know, when Japan got restitution for what was done to them, there was no argument because it was wrong. And everybody was in agreement and they got restitution, okay? But for many, many years, it's been difficult to acknowledge that slave trade was a devastation, had a devastation on the African continent and its people. And it still has ramifications to this day. I'm sure there's going to continue on the complexities of implementing reparations, you know, and obviously highlighting all the differing perspectives on historical accountability, legal frameworks, etc., etc. I know that it's not a simple thing, but it's something that is so critical that even for me as an African person, I just feel good that the world understands that what happened to my people was wrong. All right. If 123 people agreed that it was wrong, that's good enough for me. Everybody else has their reasons. That's on them. But I think at this time, the perspectives that we must understand is that the concept of reparations has historical consequences. Because in the future, this is going to continue to be argued, but it's no longer going to be pushed in the back burner. Whether we like it or not, whether anybody else likes it or not, it's going to be an ongoing conversation. Future generations of Africans or people of color who were engaged in it, who were subjugated to slavery, will continue to talk about it. So, Dibia, I want to ask you, do you think that what just happened is justified? As I think. Your thoughts?
Yeah, the resolution of by the United Nations, to formally recognize on a global level, on a global stage, slavery as a crime against humanity, probably the all-time crime. I mean, through the centuries, nations have invaded other nations, at least not in Africa that I'm aware of, but in Europe and all that stuff. Genghis Khan, all the way from Mongolia to Gaul, conquered for whatever reason that people feel that they need to follow the route of devastation and denying the population, indigenous groups, the right to chart their own future and be in control of what happens to the generation that comes after them, So it's a great thing that happened. And I use the word great because it is indeed great, where the world has formally recognized this injustice, right, that was meted out on Africans. The ramifications of slavery, which included the inability to take our rightful place in the universe because we were disjointed, right? We were separated. The nation builders were separated. The female, the male, the artisans, the architects, the Dibias, the doctors, the scientists, the farmers, the warriors, they were all taken, separated. What was left in Africa was a population that was not equipped to chart its own course, because the people that were supposed to continue to, move the community along its natural path, right? Its metamorphosis from maybe a primitive nature to a more developed mindset and science. That was all taken from Africans. So yes, it's something that is great. It happened. 23 countries all over the world, which is the majority, recognizes this injustice so that we don't spend our time on this anti-Semitic stuff about the greatest crime against humanity was what happened in World War II for a very short period of time, where, your Jews were killed or gassed and all that. But if the whole world forgets that, at the same time in Europe, it just wasn't Jews that were being killed and gassed. Russians were being killed and gassed. They weren't Jews. Poles were being killed and gassed. They weren't Jews, right? People in Europe were being killed and gassed and murdered by Nazi Germany. So it affected everybody. Now, here's the thing about this, that, I'm going to hold court on this for a little while. So I hope you will spare me a little more time for my agitation, because certain things came to mind when I was looking at this topic last night and trying to figure out what I was going to say today, And my father has always said that we need to look beyond the microscope. I don't necessarily have a particular sequence of how I want to speak about what's bugged me that most people don't know about, right? Number one, reparation it's an acknowledgement that an injustice was done. What happened at the United Nations a few days ago It's not a one-off. This conversation has been going on since the 1800s. As a matter of fact, in the 1860s, I think it was in 1865, the Special Field Order, number 15, is what we call 40 acres and a mule. It was the first attempt on reparation for the African American, or at least for the Africans that are here in the Americas, or specifically in the United States. I don't believe that the 40 acres and a mule, covered Africans that were on the island of Jamaica or Haiti, in the Caribbean. I don't think it covered that. It just covered those here in the United States. It didn't cover those in Africa. It didn't address that disjointedness. It didn't address the resource, the brain drain, the forcible removal of Africans. Because when you talk about resources, you're just not talking about natural resources in the ground, your trees and the minerals. You're also talking about human beings, this right here, because this is what knows what to do beyond your natural order of things. This right here knows what to do with those resources that are natural. So when you take this away and this is not around to be able to do something with those minerals or resources that allows a community to move forward in all areas of human endeavor, you got a problem. That's a loss there also. Now, a lot of times we blame the enslaver, the European, those people that dissented from this vote. As you mentioned earlier, we understand it. We know why. They're never going to own up to what they did because they're economists. In the past, today, and in the future was built on African labor, African mindset, and African resources. The truth of the matter is this acknowledgement is not because they're wicked, which I think they are. Somebody has to say it. This is wickedness.
Against.
That voted against the resolution was the United States.
To us was wickedness. So the world acknowledges that. We understand it, we get it, we appreciate it. It's a time to be happy and jubilant. Finally, on the global stage, they acknowledge it. Great. But people, reparation is not about the monetary value because we know that monetarily speaking, the world can pay the African for what happened to us. You don't have enough money in your economies combined to even begin to make a dent. You can't even make a dent with your resources. If the world, if Europe, if the United States, if everybody that was involved in colonizing Africa and enslaving Africans combined all their resources, they couldn't pay 0.005% of what they owe. So when you talk about reparations, well, in my opinion, it's not about the monetary part of it because they've always failed to compensate. They compensated Japanese people that were not even enslaved. They didn't experience 400 years of labor. And besides, the Japanese, even though it's not the American Japanese, but the Japanese did attack Pearl Harbor, the United States. So I can understand how they felt about the Japanese here and how scared they were that you can't really trust anybody until they figure it all out. Until they say to themselves, well, these same Japanese are fighting in the military for the United States. They're in battle with us in Iwo Jima, in Peleliu, in all these islands. They are there fighting. So they came to terms with it. They compensated those Japanese people based on the fact that they fought in World War II. But nobody talked about the African that found the cure for smallpox. Nobody talked about the African that fought in the Revolutionary War. Nobody compensated the African that fought in World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnamese War. The subjugation is still going on right now, even in the United States military. They are now refusing to recognize Africans that serve in the military and contributed to the greatness of the United States military prowess. It's not being recognized. But we understand that. My problem is not necessarily with the people that descended with their vote. My problem is with us, that we still don't understand. Even with the vote that we just earned in the United Nations, we still don't get it as people of African ancestry that we are our own worst enemy. And let me explain why. I'm so angry this morning. Ghana was the mouthpiece of Africa at the United Nations that presented their case for reparation. And the world voted, and we have people that dissented, and we understand why. And those people that voted, all 123 countries, get it. Because most of those 123 countries suffered in the hands of the colonizers. But here's what happened that nobody's talking about it. It's not in the news. Do you know that Ghana, right after the United States, I think right after the United States adoption of the reparation acknowledgement, that Ghana joined the European Union Security Council for the European Union to establish a base in Ghana? That's why Burkina Faso cut off their border and shut it down from Ghana. Ghana betrayed Africa.
Are you serious?
I'm not joking. Ghana betrayed Africa. You heard it on this show, and I'm sure when you go on the internet and Google it, you will see the information. So we talk here, then we do this. Yeah, the European did us wrong. They did us wrong, but we are our own worst enemy. Even now in Nigeria, Tinubu is still, they're messing around. So it's not about Europe. It's not about a reparation. Reparation to me is not the monetary aspect of it, because you don't have enough money in the world to pay back what you've done. Reparation for me is, after the acknowledgement, you need to now step back and let us try to build. We need to build without having to worry about you sending your planes and your guns and your nuclear weapons and your bombs to blow us to bits and pieces, all because we want to take our rightful place in the universe. And the only reason why we're not taking that rightful place right now, it's not because of the acknowledgement of reparations from the rest of the world, because whether they acknowledge or not, it's not important. What is important is that the African is united enough to understand that there are about 1.314 billion people on the continent. That does not include Africans in diaspora. That if we come together as one nation and let the world understand that attack on Ghana is an attack on Nigeria. An attack on Nigeria is an attack on Kenya. An attack on Kenya is an attack on Senegal. An attack on Senegal is an attack on South Africa. An attack on South Africa is an attack on Egypt. An attack on Egypt is an attack on Morocco. An attack on Morocco is an attack on Burkina Faso. An attack on Burkina Faso, an attack on Jamaica and Haiti. And until we as Africans globally understand that the greatest reparation that we could receive is being united. It is only in this unity that you could amass the technology, the military strength that you need to defend yourself. The world must be worried about you getting angry. They must be worried about pissing you off. The world must be worried about what you would do to them if they don't allow you to take your rightful place in the universe. You've earned it. You deserve it as a human being, as a child of Chineke, as a child of God, as a creator of God, as a human that believes that all men are created equal. If you believe that, then you also believe that you have a right to chart your future. You have a right to defend yourself. You have a right to build for the next generation. Acknowledgement of reparation simply means leave us alone so that we could grow. Leave us alone so we could build a future, the same future you've built for your children on our blood, on our backs. Just step off and let us do it, because monetarily speaking, you couldn't pay us back for the pain that you have caused.
And you know what? You are so right, UD, because it's important that all of us, both Africans and the diaspora Africans, do understand it is not about the money. I mean, there are some roadblocks, of course, that hopefully will be moved out of the way to allow, the Africans everywhere to achieve what is their right to achieve. You see, there are roadblocks, but what is really, really devastating for us is the mind game that has been played on us, as you have stated, and that it doesn't allow us to see ourselves as capable, of promoting not just for the present, but for the future, the well-being of the African. And, for those who had indicated that they are opposed to the reparations, here are some of the questions that was being asked of a Ghanaian representative. And I'm quite surprised that what you just said, that Ghana went and, after doing all of this, then they went ahead and opened Ghana up for more, colonization. But here are some of the conversations that you want.
I would like to comment on the reasons they gave. They sought to create the impression the time for negotiations have been short. The president of Ghana served notice last year in September. We put together a broad-based coalition, including experts, academics, researchers, historians from all regions of the world. We commenced negotiations. In the history of the United Nations, this has been a resolution that has gone through so many rounds of consultations and had multiple rounds of negotiations. So there are some that to us, it is clear that even if we gave them 50 years, they would say that the time is not enough. But we can no longer wait. September, we will be commemorating 100 years since the last slavery was abolished. And yet there has been no justice, a whole century. So we cannot keep waiting for those who do not want to reckon, who do not want to come to the table with urgency and acknowledgement that this is a matter that can no longer be swept under the carpet. Secondly, the claim they have made that we are seeking to create a hierarchy of crimes. We have stated clearly that it is not about hierarchy. We are only speaking to a historical fact. Never in the history of mankind have we had such a systemic crime. We took over 3 centuries, more than 300 years, with its consequences still lingering onto this day, manifesting in racism, in structural inequality, not about ranking crimes. We are clear in our minds that some are just deliberately stonewalling and introducing red herring. But what is fundamental, which nobody can deny, is that more than 12.5 million people were forcibly removed from the continent. More than 3 million people died, were tossed into the transatlantic ocean, which is a mass grave site. And in our country, Ghana, the country with the highest number of slave forts and castles, we are living witnesses.
Well, I think that truth put on the table will always sustain itself. You can try and deny it. You can try and deny the truth, but it will always show up and demand to be seen. I think it's unfortunate for any country not to acknowledge it, particularly because this is not a new thing. It has been a request, a demand over the years. But my thing right now is how do you think reparations, okay, so they've acknowledged it. That's a good thing, and everybody agrees, at least us Africans agree it's a good thing. But what are some of the practical measures that can be taken to implement the reparations? How could eligibility be determined? Who's eligible? If we are going to implement reparations, who's eligible? Who's not eligible?
All colonized nations.
Is it all Africans? Say that again. Is it all Africans that are eligible? I mean, there's been some conversations here in America where there are some African Americans who feel that reparations should be just for the African Americans. And it should not be for and it should not be for people on the continent, and it should not be for all other diasporan Africans. It should be for African Americans. Now, now let's be clear. There's been African Americans who have been advocating for reparations based on slavery here on the continent. I mean, in America, some of what the African Americans were subjugated to. And, I appreciate that, also, this is where their lives are. Many of them have not been to Africa, and so many of them don't even know about Africa. Some, not all, of course, some don't even know that slavery had on Africans themselves, and why Africans have gotten into this whole argument about reparations, not just for those who made it here, but for the Africans who lost people. Those who made it here were the people that Africa lost, you see. So there's this argument about who deserves reparation. How is it going to be implemented? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, You know, again, what I said, most of this problem is really about black people, not white folks or the colonizer, because we know what they did. I don't think anybody in their right mind is ever going to, unless you're just somewhere you never heard about slavery. But there's no African anywhere in the world. And I say African because we're all from the continent. Doesn't matter where you are. There's none of us in the world that is going to act like they don't understand the evils of slavery and who it affected first. It didn't affect the African Americans. So for me, it's the stupid argument I ever heard. Now, you could talk about reparations for African Americans in America. I get it. You can. But you can't talk about reparation in general and act like those people that came to America who were Africans before they came here, before they were brought here involuntarily. Don't act like they weren't Africans. Because if we take it that way, it could have been my granddaddy, my great-great-great-great-granddaddy that ended up here. So I need reparation too. So it ain't all about you. What about their generations of those Africans? Why do you think their generations in Africa don't need reparation too? Is the stupidest thing. And here's another thing I want people to think about. How many millions of African Americans are there here? About what, 43, 45 million?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I'm not sure the number.
Yeah, but let's just say 45 million. Now, if you gave 45 million people $1 million each, how much you think they got? I'm asking a question. You have any idea? Right?
Oh, no, you know.
Yeah, 45 million people, and you give them $1 million each. How many $1 million is that? It's 45.
That's 45 million. That's
Yeah.
45 million.
So the United States can pay 45 million when they're pissing over billions of dollars just for ICE to get us in the street and kill Americans. So giving African American reparation is not about the money, because the money ain't nothing. The money is not even the budget of a local town over here, whose budget a year, Atlanta, Georgia, how much you think that budget is every year? It's at least 2, 3, 4, 5 billion. So paying African Americans reparation ain't nothing. Paying the Jamaican reparation ain't nothing. If you pay reparation to Africans, there's 1.3 billion people. Give them $1 million each. How much you think that is? The world can afford it. All the criminal nations can afford to pay that reparation. While African Americans, those people that are advocating what you're talking about and thinking that it's all about them, are the same kind of problem we have as Africans, because one step forward, 2 steps back. You sabotage yourself, just like Ghana presents this immaculate case to the UN reparation. Remember, Ghana is the front runner in the presentation, but they're not the only contributors to the reparation movement. African Americans, Jamaicans, all Africans on the motherland, in Britain and all that, black folks from all over the world contributed to this reparation agreement that we have right now. So it's not like one person, Ghana, did it. But the thing about it is, after Ghana did all this and we're all jubilating, they go and sign the security agreement with the European Union. It's the same kind of disease that we have with black folks, where we see ourselves sometimes as special when we're not. You know, the Jamaican thinks is better than the Haitian. But forget that the Haiti, as impoverished as they are, were the first West Indian nation to gain independence and beat the French. Napoleon had to sell half the US to the United States. That's how America expanded, as payment for France, for America to boycott Haiti. You forget the greatness of Haiti because somewhere, somehow in your mind, you think you're better. Maybe because you can't really look at the world and say, oh, I can identify this as Haitian culture, but I can look at reggae, because that's all you have to export to the world, the reggae music. So you're known for that. Then all of a sudden you think you're that special because of reggae. It's like me claiming I'm special because I listen to Afrobeat, Fela Kuti. Fela is famous. Does that make me better than a Ghanaian or a South African? Or because Afrobeat came from Nigeria or whatever, or made famous? What about South Africa? South Africa is better than all other people because Miriam Makeba was the first one to win the Grammy. So now South Africa is better? No.
Well,
if Makeba wins it, I win it. I'm proud of Miriam Makeba, not because she's South African, but because she's African. So for those people that sit around talking about they are that special, that it should be for them, nonsense. If that's how you think, then you don't even need to belong to the reparation conversation, because you're obviously greedy, hateful, and quite frankly, just stupid, because you don't understand that this is about umoja. This is about unity. This is about having one voice. This is about not acting like Ghana and signing an agreement with Europe, because I can guarantee you there are a whole lot of African Americans right here in America that are willing to sell out other black folks around the world if somebody told them that they are going to get that reparation, just them and nobody else. The rest of the world is never going to go with us for the reparation thing, because the economy was built on our blood and sweat, and they will do everything in their power to keep us impoverished, because they feel that if we become powerful, then they don't have access to those resources, both mentally and otherwise, that put them in the position that they are in the first place. Because after they found out there were other people outside of Europe to kill, they went over there and colonized and killed everybody. Then refused to pay reparation. Then we finally get this reparation acknowledged at the UN, and Ghana goes and sells us out. Just like any black person in this world that thinks that they are entitled to reparation more than anybody else is out of their mind.
Yeah, and quite frankly, if you're just to make a correction here, if we're talking about 43 million Americans, right, and each one of them getting $1 million, that's like $43 trillion. America doesn't have that. It's not going to be able to give you that. So I don't think African Americans are necessarily asking for every one of them to get money. I think they're looking for certain things to be
that their suffering is better or worse than anybody else, which is stupid.
Yeah, well, certain programs to be put in place to allow the descendants of slaves to be able to rise. Okay, and if anything can come out of this whole thing, and I'm hoping that it doesn't, just die away, because sometimes these good news, sometimes they just, they last for 1 or 2 days, and then they're forgotten, right? But it is going to make an impact, I feel, in the society. Okay, I think it's going to change relationships and the dynamics among different racial and ethnic groups, because people will now understand that there are consequences for such things. Right now, quite frankly, because there are no consequences for slavery, it's continuing. It's continuing. There's still slavery. Slavery, the way it was before, it's not the way it is now, but it is. You have sex slavery. You have, you have a lot of people being taken to different countries from Africa, even to this day, and still being, enslaved. That is still going on. That is still going on. And so I think that one of the things that this will do is to let the world know that it's not acceptable. It's just not acceptable to continue with slavery. Slavery has consequences. And I know that Africans were not the only ones who were subjected to slavery, yes, but we were subjected to that by millions, more so than a whole lot of other people. So I think it's just important that we are acknowledged as human beings, and what was done to us was wrong, so that it should not repeat itself, Exactly. And I don't think personally, and I do sympathize. I do understand how African Americans feel. Frankly, they were focusing, some of them, not all of them. There are many African Americans who feel that Africans all over the world should have reparations. Then there are some who are focused, particularly the younger ones, who are more focused on it being only relevant to those whose ancestors were on this soil in America and were enslaved while in America. They're not looking at it from the perspective of where did they come from before they came to America. It's just here. But as you indicated earlier, I think we have to develop that spirit of umoja. No matter where you are, you're an African. Some people deny it. Some people try to find their heritage lineage from anywhere from than Africa. But sometimes I think it's important for the Africans everywhere to look back on the continent and see Africa is not somewhere you should be ashamed of. The world's resources comes from there. Everybody depends on Africa. You name it, it comes from there. Our ancestors came from a rich environment, continent, and unfortunately, many of our people were taken out of Africa and enslaved. Right? But I don't think we should be creating a demarcation between those on the continent and those who live here as far as reparations is concerned. Different kinds of reparations, I would say. I know, knowing in this country, right, many African Americans don't have what they need to be competitive, and we should open the doors for them to become competitive. We should, personally, I think African Americans should have free college education. I think this country owes them that. You know what I'm saying? Every African American child should and must have access to university, university education, because that is one way, not the only way, but that is definitely one way that you can compensate for slavery. You can make sure that those who are qualified are, that's what affirmative action was supposed to do, but they took that away, So there are so many ways to compensate the indigenous Africans in Africa, and then those in African America, those in America who suffered directly from the slavery on the continent, and those who lost people. We lost a lot of gems. Africa lost a lot of people. And so reparations must be accorded to those on the continent and those who are here on different levels, different ways.
Exactly.
Different ways. And I think that as they talk about how it could be implemented, the Africans in America have the right to determine, to shape how they want that to be. But they can't exclude people. I don't think we should be excluding people who came from Africa and are living here, because I understand there are some individuals who feel that if you're not an American born, if you're Black but you were not born here and you are naturalized, well, you didn't suffer slavery, so you don't have the right for reparations. Well, I beg to differ. It's still the same thing. My ancestors, also did suffer the consequences of slavery, So, but I don't think that Africans globally should fight each other on reparations. We should be on the same page. Africans on the continent deserve it. Africans in diaspora deserve it. The history tells us what happened to all of us, and so that should not be where we have a disagreement. Who gets what and who doesn't get what, who deserves what and who doesn't deserve, we all deserve it. How it's implemented certainly also depends on how the individual countries choose to implement it. But the people have to all advocate for their own, system to do right by them. And they have a right to determine what that would be, But I don't think that the Africans should fight over this. I just don't. That's just me. I just don't. I agree with you that it should not be something that should, that should tear us apart. And I want to ask you, are they, as far as you know, I do know some, but I'll ask you this. What are some of the examples that you know of other countries or contexts where reparations have been successfully implemented besides the Japanese, And what are the lessons from them that we can share with the rest of the African world?
The only lesson that can be looked at and studied is probably Indonesia, Malaysia, something like that. But when we talk about reparations, like you have mentioned, and we always talk about it, who suffered more, when you talk about reparation. And like I mentioned before, are we really talking about money? You understand what I'm saying? Because you can't quantify the suffering, the debts, the lack of economic growth, the 300 years, 400 years of generations, how you say, truncated. I mean, there's no money, don't cover that. You can't pay for it. As a matter of fact, in 1908, Belgium took over, Belgium took over Congo. And over 2-point-something million people within 10 years were amputated, their hands cut off, their legs cut off, delimbed, all because they didn't meet a quota. The idea that any African, anywhere in the world, diaspora on the continent, think they suffered more under the jackboots of the European than the other. Does the African think he suffered more than the Africans in the Caribbean, who were sodomized all the time in front of their wives and kids? Do you think he suffered more than the Congolese with their hands and amputated? The African American over here that gets hung just for looking at a white person? Who claims the biggest suffering in any African community all over the world? Which African suffered more? Because you can't quantify that to me. You can't tell me the African American suffered less. You can't tell me the Jamaican suffered less, or that the Nigerian, the Igbo suffered less. You can't tell me that. Or the black person ended up in Britain, or the Australian Aborigines that got truncated by the British in Australia, or the Aztec, the Mayan, and the Inca that was truncated, burned alive by Cortez, the Spaniards. Who suffered less? The Indian? Chinese? Who suffered less? Because they killed a lot of Chinese. They killed a lot of our Indians, but they were not in chattel slavery. For black folks, it was different. And the pain for a black person, for an African, was the same on the motherland. It was the same outside the motherland, because the European saw you the same, whether you were on the continent or outside of it. They didn't care if you're Jamaican. They didn't ask you if you were from Ghana or from Botswana or Burkina Faso. They didn't care. They see black, that's it. African black, the monkey, that's it. Nobody cares if you're African American. Nobody cares if you're Ghanaian or Jamaican. They don't give a damn. They see us the same. The pain they give me is the same pain they're going to give to you. The same pain they give a Jamaican, they will give it to an African American, give it to a British black, give it to a Chinese black, give it to a black in the motherland, and the Aborigine and the guy in Guinea, New Guinea. They'll give you the same. They disqualify you as a human being. You're not a member of the human community. In the book of Jonah in the Bible, we are referred to as the Druks, D-R-U-K-S, the people of the underground, the black, the dark-skinned people that live underground that are not going to receive the blessing of the Lord. That's what one of the verses of the Bible, the book of Jonah, that's how they wrote us in there. And the Bible has gone through so many revisions where you're not even a human being because God doesn't even recognize you according to their religion. Pan-Africanism is what we need to be concerned about. That's a reparation that we need to pay ourselves. Pan-Africanism, what is that? It focuses on overturning capitalistic systems that exploit African resources, emphasize education, socialism, and self-reliance. Cultural Pan-Africanism emphasizes shared identity, heritage, and the fostering of Ubuntu, interconnectedness across the diaspora. That's the reparation that we need to pay ourselves. Don't worry about the reparation they're paying you because they ain't paying you nothing. The only reparation that we needed was the acknowledgement that we got at the United Nations and hoping that people like Ghana don't sell us out. That's the reparation. You pay yourself. Don't worry about them paying you because they will never acknowledge it because you built up their nation, both with this physical labor and the blood you have to shed for the European to sit in his high whatever and look upon you as less than. When even the diseases that kill them, you help them to find a cure for it. You even taught them, the Blackamoors, how to bathe. You have civilizations when they were living in caves. The first mathematical calculation ever calculated, Lebombo bones, the Ishaka bones, was from Africa. While these guys 30,000 years ago were still in caves, we were calculating, doing math, we were measuring the stars. But they turn around and tell me that I'm inferior. I'm only inferior to them because they've mastered their art of being less spiritual than anybody else. The animalistic tendency of getting rid of elderly people. The idea that human life beyond their own hue is less than, and you could just kill and get rid of generations, millions of people, and not even bat an eye. That's the reparation we need to be giving ourselves. An acknowledgement that the only way for us to rise, to control 1.4, 1.5 billion people all over the world is Ubuntu, togetherness, cultural Pan-Africanism. Do that first. Then we get into nation formation, which is the one African union globally, one country. Nation formation, then nation building, which includes science, military, education, cultural centers built up, everything that identifies and unifies as a people, same calendar, same language. Teaching in schools, start now. It's never too late, and it doesn't take more than 20 years to establish yourself as a bona fide society, community, and nation. One nation. According to George Clinton.
Well, you know, even when we talk about, when we, I mean, you just hitting everything on the head. When we talk about one nation, I don't think people really understand that one nation doesn't mean that you don't have diversity. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you don't have diversity in thought or diversity in culture. But we have to have a one mindset. And that mindset is unity. Working together in spite of our diversity to advance the well-being, advance the needs of people who look like us. Often when we talk about one nation, people think, oh, we have to be one country. You can't be one country. You can't be one country. The reason why you can't be one country is because there's so much diversity in African people, but you can create a continent whereby all the different areas work with each other, collaborate with each other. Now, if we get to the point that we as a collective decide, okay, we just need one ruler to rule over all of us, then it has to be a joint declaration. But in the meantime, we have to get to the point that mentally we see ourselves not as enemies, but as one. The unity that you talk about, the unity they talk about in Kwanzaa, is just a set of principles that all of us must adopt, regardless where we are as African people. If in the future we decide, oh, okay, we want to, I'm not even pushing that. I'm pushing the practice of principles that wherever you are as an African, that unites us mentally. Yeah. That lets us know that we shouldn't be fighting with each other, that we're in this together. One mindset. And that mindset demands that we see each other as one. If in the future you decide, okay, let us just be one country, that's one thing. But right now, we're divided by mindset. We don't see ourselves as one. That's why we're here fighting over who gets reparations and who doesn't. Well, they've declared it. And slavery started from the continent. And they took our people over here. And they took them to the US, they took them to the Caribbean, took them to so many places. All those people are all part. They're all part of this nation. I mean, part of the atrocities against the African people. I think it's imperative that people really look at this reparation not from a selfish standpoint, but from a perspective of it's all of us. And it's not about money, like you said earlier. It's not about money. It's about, okay, it's been brought to light that something terrible happened to us in the past. Now, where do we go from here? The acknowledgement has been made at the highest level of the fulcrum of the world gatherings. It's been made there, and that is at the United Nations. So what do we do now? Can I now see my African American brothers and sisters as my sisters? Would they look at me now as their brothers and sisters? Would they look at that? Do we now look at each other as, okay, this happened to us, now we must come together for the good of our communities? What do we do from now? What are we going to say to the children now? You know, beyond the financial reparations, you know, what other acknowledgement or restitution that will heal the historical wounds? Because like I said earlier, and you said earlier, it's not about money. There's not enough money to compensate anyone for what has been done. And, you know, you acknowledge what happened to the Jews. What happened to them was an atrocity. But I don't believe that if it was done to you, then you can do it to somebody else, you know. That's when we kind of have separated from divine guidance. And that's what I was saying earlier. We need to reconnect with divine guidance because we're just doing man stuff. And it's tearing the world apart. You do me, I do you. God no go vex. You saw, I don't know if you heard what happened today in Texas. Have you heard about that? You probably haven't heard.
No, what happened?
Texas, the oil refinery there is being blown up. Who's doing it? We don't know. The media is not telling you that.
Of course they won't.
This is the disunity I'm talking about. This disunity. The world is not working together under divine guidance. We are doing our own things. Now people are fighting. They're warring. For
Look
what?
at America.
When all is said and done,
divided.
When all is said and done, what is this all about anyway? You know,
money.
You know what the world. At one point, the world had the dinosaurs and all that stuff. They all died away. They're all gone now. Who's to say that the man is going to be here? Who's to say? We are tearing ourselves apart. We are going to cause our own extinction. Now the world there's a world war going on. There's world war going on right now.
Yeah.
Have you heard about what you call it? Hawaii. Hawaii is underwater.
Yeah.
Hawaii is completely out underwater. And yet we're denying climate change. We are doing what is it? What's the word I'm trying to? We are doing what nature maybe may have considered doing, but we're doing it ourselves.
No, what we're doing is some black folks think that their suffering was greater than some of the black people, and now they hate all the black people. And when you talk about reparations and stuff like that, they're like, no, we're the ones that deserve the reparations. The other black folks didn't suffer as much as we did. They shouldn't get reparation. They're all trying to be part of our reparation. You know, that kind of stuff. And you sit around and wonder why white folks continue to take advantage of black folks because of this disunity and lack of umoja kind of thing. I mean, whatever. You can't handle it. I mean, here you are, you're fighting the European, the European Union that have their own currency.
I got to read something. I have to read something that somebody. This is important.
I tell you, man.
That I read this.
I saw the list.
Wait a minute. We got somebody here, and I think this is important because I did ask for people to write in. This person says this lady is delusional. We do not share the same struggle. Africa has 3,000 different tribes with 300 different languages. You people are slave traders, and you sold those Africans to those Europeans. And then she says delineation, reparations, and immigration. That's all we care about. Can slavery, Can slavery is still going on in Africa to this day. You are trying to get in on Black America's struggle and our reparations. I don't know who this person is. You are a complete fool. I'm sorry, you are a toady.
I'm never going to pay attention.
You are a fool.
He just validated everything we just talked about.
Let me address this young man or young man, whatever the heck this person is. This delusional fool that got on here to say something. Whether you like it or not, your ancestors came from Africa.
Thank you.
You don't have to like it, but that's your reality. Let me answer this, please, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Because it's one thing for an idiot to come here and say whatever they want to say. We Africans on the continent, we went through the same doggone thing you went through. Don't tell me about fighting for the reparations. Who do you think came here? It was our people who came here. Our people were stolen and brought here. Why I sympathize with African Americans. Let's be clear. Those were my people. Your ancestors are my ancestors. They were my people. And so when I say that we share the same thing, I don't know who this person is. I don't care who you are, but I want to make it clear, whether you like it or not, we share the same ancestry. Deal with it. What happened to you happened to Africans. And I don't care if you live in America or if you live in Africa. If you're an African person, you deserve to be compensated. We're not trying to muscle in on whatever it is you think you're getting. They're not giving you a doggone thing. It is our responsibility as Africans to come together and make sure that we move ourselves forward, not sit back here and whine about who's going to get what. You. Who? Muscle in on what? Wait a minute. I'll let you speak. We want to muscle in on what African Americans are fighting for? We're not trying to muscle in on anything. We're keeping it real. On this show, we are telling you that we cannot fight each other over what they're not even going to give you anything. It is up to us to, right now what has happened is that it's been acknowledged. Now we have to see how we move from this nonsense. What is it that we are going to You think you ask for reparation for America and Africans don't have the right to ask for reparation? Who in the world do you think you are?
An idiot.
What happened to African Americans is horrific. And you deserve and you're right to demand what comes to you. But don't sit there and tell me as an African that I'm muscling in on you. Who do you think your ancestors are? My ancestors. They are my ancestors. Your ancestors are my ancestors. They were the ones taken out of our continent and brought here. That's what we were talking about earlier. No, I'm sorry, but I just got to say it. Don't come up in here and talk about we Africans are delusional. Who the heck is this person? A total toady. Come in here. I'm sorry, but I'm, for the most part, I try to be nice and kind and everything. But don't come in here and talk that nonsense. Everybody demands and should have reparation. African Americans have asked for it, they fought for it. You are fighting for your own reparation. I'm not asking for American reparation. That's not the one I'm asking for. You are asking for that. We are asking for the world reparation. Get the difference?
Yep.
You here talking about what America will give you. What we're not fighting for that.
Like anybody gonna give him nothing.
Go ahead on and fight for that if that's what you want to do. Go ahead on. Do you? But we're talking about what has happened to Africans worldwide. It didn't just happen in America. What happened in America to African Americans is horrific. It's horrible. And we understand that. And we preach that. We demand that for you. But this happened to our whole continent. Everybody was impacted by slavery. Everybody. Whatever it is you're fighting for. It's not, I'm not here fighting for no financial money, financial support. It's just the dignity.
Left alone.
The dignity of us Africans is what we're fighting for. It has been acknowledged at the United Nations. Who did that? Who acknowledged that? It was African people, it was Ghana.
Yep.
They understand that. We agree with African Americans that this was wrong. And we are all fighting for the same thing. So don't come up in here and start calling anybody names. Take your little, I don't know, is that racism or ethnocentrism?
You're just an idiot. I'm hoping it's an African American that wrote that.
Wherever you're going. Don't come up in here and think we're going to be quiet. I'm not going to be quiet. Call us delusional because Africans have different, 3,000 different tribes. So,
how many tribes does Europe have? And yet they're united over there. How many tribes do they have in Europe? Moron, don't even think before they open their mouth.
What does that mean? So we have different tribes. So what? Here you have different states, all of them calling themselves different states, right? I'm from
Alabama,
Wyoming. I'm from all different states here. There's nothing wrong with all the diversity. That's humanity. You didn't create that. Nobody created that. That's the nature of life. We are different. So it's not something for me to be ashamed that we have different tribes. So what? So what is it? Yes, they were brought out of Africa by your people. Oh, really? I don't even want to go in the gutter with this.
Listen, Ogele.
Let me tell you, that I know the crime in America, okay? Don't tell me about we sold. I know what we do to each other anywhere we are. So it's the Africans. Yes, there's some Africans who participated in the slave trade. We know that. There are some in the slave. Wait a minute. In the slave plantations, there were Africans who participated.
Yeah,
African Americans own slaves over here. People
they own slaves here. For him to start talking all that
own slaves, and were helping. They were helping. They were helping the slaves,
escape slaves,
bring
round
their
them
own
up.
people down. So don't come up with that nonsense.
Yeah, he's an idiot. I don't know which school he went to. I don't know who taught him anything. Anyway, you can't waste your time.
I hear that all the time. Africans sold.
It's stupid. It's the stupidest argument I've ever heard.
Human nature is such that we do stupid things. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're white, purple, or green, or black. I don't care where you are. We do stupid things. African Americans sold their own people enslaved in the plantations.
Yep.
Many slaves tried to get away, but their own people will tell the master, and they'll be rounded up. Don't go there, brother.
He needs to go to school.
Don't go there. You better read your own history. Read your own history so you know what your people did to your own people here in America.
Yep.
That's what we're fighting for.
Let me say this.
Continue. It shouldn't continue. So you know what? I just don't need anybody coming here to try and say Africans. Yes, there were some Africans who participated in that. That was wrong. That was wrong. But when you come here and you want to say that you're innocent, you're not innocent. I'm not even going to respond to this idiot anymore. He can write whatever he wants to write. Let's see. Dibia Chedosia, how are you? Welcome.
Okay,
good to have you here.
I'm good.
Yes, it's been we were having a quiet conversation to some guy coming here to that's the division we're talking about. Black people should not be divided. We shouldn't divide each other. We should be working together.
Let me say something to this guy right quick. because he doesn't understand anything. And what I just have to say to him is really very simple. And this is to our audience and everybody listening. Let me say this. I'm going to take my glasses off and say it. In fact, I'm going to read it because I wrote it down. Unless Africa develops and finds its own voice, there's no African community anywhere in the world that will ever find its own voice. You could talk about reparation all you want to, say what you want. But if the motherland is not together, there is no African community anywhere in the world that will be together. As many times as you've talked about reparations here in the United States, bottom line is it was the African in the motherland that got this resolution from the United Nations. It wasn't the African in diaspora, not the African in Jamaica, in the United States, in Britain, or anywhere in the world. It was the diasporan African, which is what we're talking about. It's going to take the diasporan African to get themselves together for the rest of the African community to get themselves together and prosper. Umoja, unity. That's the key here. Not for one African community to think that they suffered more than anybody else. You didn't suffer more than the Jamaican as an African American. You didn't suffer more than the African. The African didn't suffer more than the African American or the British black. We were hated all over the world. We were sodomized all over the world. Our women were raped all over the world. We were decapitated all over the world. We were lynched all over the world. There was no lynching going on anywhere else in the world if you were black more than any other place in the world. We all were under the goddamn gun. And I'm raising my voice with my glasses off because it's high time some of this Africans, African Americans, Jamaicans, and all these idiots out here that think that they're better. No, you are not. And until we get it together and see the possibilities, if we all just come together and look at one another as being under the same subjugation and come together just like the Europeans came together with the European Union, speaking different languages, but understanding that if you want to bring a people together, religion is your key. Because when the interest of the European is at stake, they rally around Christianism. The Indian will rally around Hinduism. The Chinese will rally around their traditional religion, so forth and so on and so forth. But the African, you rally around somebody else's religion. You think that your suffering is worse than somebody else. You think you're better than another African. You think that you face less prejudice than any other African anywhere in the world. That is the kind of narrative that has kept us in the condition that we're in today. Not because the white man continues to be wicked, which they are, but because somewhere in our heads we think that we're better than another black African. That's a lie, and we'll never get it together until the rest of Africa, the rest of the black world, acknowledge that unless Africa gets it together, they will never rise. That's what I got to say to this fool that wrote that stuff. So he could take that to the bank and understand that no matter what he thinks of himself and what he writes, until we, the Africans that he thinks, put him in the condition that he is in, unless we get it together, he will never get it together. He will continue to beg for reparations until he realizes that he ain't going to come from cash, because ain't nobody giving him nothing. He's over there with his mouth watering, thinking reparation is about money. Well, you are not going to get a dime, fool. Not a penny. Not you or any other black person in the world that thinks that their suffering is worse than anybody else's. The only reparation I want is just for you to leave me alone to develop, to build. Listen, that's it.
Yudi, this person says nobody has contributed more to the liberation of black people more than black Americans.
He's an idiot. He's a total moron. When did he get his civil? Wait a minute. When did he get his civil rights? He got it in 1968. Africans got independence in 59.
This is what I'm saying. When we are focused on who did more than the other, we're never going to succeed. Listen, comments like this. So I have to walk around here, cower, and get into the shadows because African Americans contributed more to black people than any other African Americans, than any other Africans. So we should just be quiet. Just move on out. If you're not African American, then you didn't contribute to the liberation of the world, of the African people all over the world. I mean, is that what that's saying? What does that mean? Well, Dibia Dozier, your turn. Go ahead.
Yeah, I met this talk halfway, so I didn't know the beginning, so I have to. But if I catch the
let me share with you. Let me share with you, Dibia Dozier. We were talking about reparations. The United Nations, Ghana introduced reparations, and it was passed by 123 people, countries. 3 abstained. The United States, Australia, was it Argentina, and Israel? Okay, and then you had other countries.
European Union.
European Union. Relatively. So we were just talking about the fact that it's important that Africans and African Americans work together in unity, okay? So that whatever compensation that will come, we all benefit from it, not just because there's a lot of argument over who deserves it more. Should it be the African Americans who deserve it, or should it be the continental Africans, or should we all be deserving of whatever it is that's going to come of it? And we talked about the fact that it's not going to be financial for the most part. It's not, because you can, Dibia Yudi said that you cannot compensate people enough. It's just not a monetary thing. There's the mental havoc that was caused, et cetera, So there's this young person who just started just talking about the fact that Africans, that we are trying to muscle in on what African Americans have fought for, and it's well, anyway, that's it in a nutshell. African Americans, Africans sold African Americans, and
their
all
suffering
that
was worse than anybody else.
Yeah, the African American suffering, and my argument is there's no argument over the suffering of the African Americans. There's none, but the Africans suffered too. This reparation is for the black world that suffered. So it's not a matter of anybody trying
in Africa. I'm saying it, and let anybody challenge me. We suffered more in Africa than they did anywhere. Anybody challenge me on that? If we're going to talk about suffering, challenge me that the African Americans suffered more than the African in the motherland during slavery.
And the fact, and the fact that African Americans, the fact that Africans sold African Americans, there's no sold other Africans. That's historical fact. Nobody's arguing that. But African Americans,
he just a young misinformed kid, has no sense of history. So just let him alone, man.
They did their own people.
Well, I think I get the drift. I get the drift.
You cannot educate that guy.
Africans just did wrong to each other. Yes, we know that. But we cannot hate each other because of it.
My background is not too noisy. I'm not in Lagos. I'm in Asaba. I took 1 year accumulated leave. So I'm spending it in Denis Osadebe University. And here, of course, there's no light, so everybody generates his own light. I managed to get solar, but I think the landlord, I think his solar has a fault, so he's running a gen to pump water. So I hope my background is not too noisy. Well, I think this particular question has been there for as long as I know. When I was even a student, postgraduate student, in 1994, and I was on the board of Pan-African Movement of Nigeria, PAMON, then headed by Chief Akimbila Pobe, and now Professor Akimbila Pobe, retired. And then our general leader then was Onaiwo Sahan. And it was a thing that both Onaiwo Sahan and Chinwezu, as of that time, they wrote extensively about it. The fact that slavery and slave trade is not markedly African. It is human nature. And if you trace around history, Europeans actually did the same thing to Europeans in America, because we should realize that most of the Europeans in America today were like slaves, shipped, or criminals. They were treated like criminals and slaves shipped to the Americas to go and find their way. So technically, it is the violence that of the Europeans visited on all others. The Indians as well, Indians were as well the first people to be taken as slaves to the so-called New World before Africans. But the Indians, in their consciousness, decided to make slave trade profitable, since they knew it was all about profit, and that the whites, the Caucasians, will not.
Okay,
Well,
we've
the
lost
guy
him. We've
has,
lost him, and he'll be back as soon as he's back. I'll put him back.
well,
in.
here's what you have to let this guy know, Gilly. Okay, African
Well,
Americans actually sold slaves right here in the United States to white folks, right here. All right. So this guy has been misinformed to think that that's an African thing, that there are no saboteurs. In World War II, there were British people that were spying for Germans, and vice versa. You had Germans helping allies to fight Germany. There are one-offs in every place in the world. There are people that will join the so-called enemy because they themselves don't want to end up in the jackboots. In Rome, same thing. In America, you had African Americans going to capture runaway slaves and bring them back for bounty. You had African Americans, bounty hunters, chasing down runaway slaves. And this fool over here has a nerve to come here and talk nonsense because he's misinformed. For some reason, he thinks that one black person is better than the other black person. Anyway, go ahead, Dibia Chedoze, you're back on.
So yes, so technically, yes, the whites in America are not of the same status as Africans that were shipped as slaves, but the truth of the matter was that their European counterparts saw them as non-doers or criminals that should be ousted from the European community. Even as far back as early 19th century, or was it late 18th century, the then Emperor of France saw white Americans as inferior subjects compared to Europeans. So that kind of mentality, temperament has always been there. Superiority versus inferiority complex, and it's usually used in to cause divide and rule. So that's what I think you've done well in trying to educate. So we need more education for this and that. Africa, both Africa diaspora and Africa in the African continent, we are suffering one thing alone: mental colonization. And we need to fight this. And so, and that treachery is part of human nature. Like I was saying, the Indians discovered that the white people, the Caucasians, will not go into any trade that is not profiting. So they decided to kill themselves. A lot of them decided to kill themselves and make the trade uncomfortable, unprofitable for the Caucasians. And that's how they turned to Africa. And when they came to Africa, they discovered that if they went it on a peace, a sort of civil approach, they will not make headway. So what they decided to do was to pillage Africa. First, attack Africans, pack them as slaves, and then, of course, it was natural that some people who feel superior, because in Africa too, there are those who feel cheated, there are those who feel superior, inferior complex. It was there. And so they bought into those who had grievances against their community. They started using them and then got them as informant, trained them, and started using them against their own people. And in most cases, impose, like in Igbo land, impose those that Achebe, the Igbos call Eflefu. You read about that in Things Fall Apart, on the Igbo community. The traditional leaders were sacked one side, and then the courtmans and the new native chiefs were imposed on the people. And education was brought in, and if you read Achebe's Things Fall Apart, Mr. Brown telling the people that the elders of the community to send their children to school because the school will determine the future leaders. And that's what the quagmire we're in today, miseducation. So education, that's not ours, because this particular program, we're still speaking foreign language, and that's part of the problem. So we need more of education to let ourselves know that we all need reparation. And the reparation we need is not that of money. The reparation we need is that of returning the African, creating the condition that will return the African soul, the African identity to the African. So if you ask me today, we are dire stripped, disarray, dissociated psyche, because we don't have a common nucleus called authentically African. That's the problem we have. Whether in Africa, or Africa diaspora, there is no place like Dibia Round just finished reading to us. No place on this earth that you can say is authentically African. By saying it's authentically African, we use our language, we use our spirituality to consummate our affairs. Our language and spirituality, meaning we use our totality of our mindset. That's the problem today. That's the problem we are facing. And that is what slavery, slave trade, and balkanization, then colonization, and post-colonization. And now today we're in globalization, and then from globalization, we're talking about transpolitalism, and so on and so forth. That is what it's meant to achieve. That's the greatest reparation we need. The Jews once faced this kind of situation, and they solved it by making sure they created the state of Israel anywhere in the world. And since Palestine favored them historically, they chose Palestine. Today, Israel can coordinate its affairs. The Jews can coordinate their affairs from Israel, whether we like it or not. And so they can coordinate their affairs. They can go to Israel, hold their meeting, have one voice. That is the greatest reparation we need, not reparation of money. If we say reparation of money, it is still the so-called corrupt African leaders that will siphon the money back to Europe, back to the Americas, back to the four corners of the world. So the reparation we should be asking for as African people is to create for us authentically African states, so that we grant the question of the national question. It should be addressed. We should realize that we were nations that were headed together into what they call the new states today, so that state supersedes nation in Africa. Meanwhile, in traditional Europe, nations supersede states, like in Britain, nations supersede states. If you go to Switzerland, nations supersede states. It's only in the United States that states supersede what you can call race, and it is deliberate. It's deliberate. I think University of Ibadan, I was invited as an external examiner to a PhD thesis that used John Rawls as a foundation for justice. And I told him any African country using America as a point of justice will not get justice. Because in the first instance, America itself is injustice. You went to a people's land, the Aborigines, blacks and red Indians, you seize their land by force, you check them out of their own Aboriginal land, you introduce a system that favors those who govern America. Wherever you are born, you are an American. Or if you migrate to a place, you live there 10 years, you're American. Nobody mentions the question of aborigine, of being an aborigine. Nobody mentions it. And all the political philosophies of America, from John Rawls to the pragmatist, to the current John Rawls, Richard Nozick, and all of them are meant to justify that system. And each time we bring that system to Africa, what we are asking for is that we should introduce a system where Bonebody is in charge, where we ignore the indigenship. Because in Africa, the problem we have in Africa is the problem they have in Europe. The problem of who belongs to what ethnic group. Ethnicity, it is still the problem they're facing. They're slugging it out in Ukraine. Russia claiming Ukraine by language, by culture, is part and parcel of them. and that a culture that is typically not theirs is being introduced into Russia through Ukraine. So Russia says it has to invade Ukraine because the Allies had promised they will not encroach, and then they are encroaching. So it's like that's still a question of ethnicity. And so what the reparation we need is that we need nucleuses in Africa that will now act as a foundation for African Americans, because African Americans will continue to be in disarray if home Africa does not get it right. So the day we begin,
that's the truth.
the day we begin to have authentic nationhood in Africa that use complete language of theirs and spirituality of theirs as the rallying center for governance.
Yes.
That is the day that African liberation has started. It means that when the African diaspora visit, they will key into that spirituality, they will key into that language, and they will take it back to the Americas, Barbados, Jamaica, anywhere that Africans exist. I think for me, that is the reparation we should be asking for. The question of the African identity. It cannot be monetized. If we monetize it, we have sold again the African soul. That's my little understanding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate all the comments. And there are some, thank you. There are some comments that people have made here that I think need to be addressed. And I'm going to address this particular one. I'm over here in my country. Let your people are fleeing too. I think it's important for everybody to understand why people leave where they belong.
Thank you.
Not everybody coming to America is fleeing to America.
Thank you.
Okay. There are reasons, different reasons why people come here. Some come here for better opportunities. Some come here because they won the lotto, and they're able to come. Some come here to advance their education because in some African countries, you don't have enough universities. People don't come here because they're coming from Africa, fleeing to America for anything. They're coming for different reasons. Whereas I agree, there may be some individuals fleeing here for whatever reasons. We're not all coming to the United States because Africa is so bad. There may be some opportunities in Africa that we don't have, that we find that we can get here. And let's be clear, there are African Americans who are coming to Africa. It's vice versa. And that we're not saying they're fleeing America. They are coming because there's something in Africa that they like, that they want to be a part of. So all this talk about you are fleeing, not everybody's fleeing. There's not just Africans who are coming to America. You have Jamaica, you have India. You have people from different countries coming here for whatever reason. Sometimes we are even invited. Nurses are being invited by America to come here because you don't have enough. There are people coming here for different reasons. So don't put everybody in the one basket. So that's not a very good argument to make. Because I cannot say that every African American who's coming to America or coming to Africa is fleeing America. There are some people who do go to Africa and still come back here. There are some people who go there because of economic opportunities, reunification with family, bigger opportunities for them. So it's very myopic to say, oh, we are fleeing. This is your country. Where your ancestors were brought here. Our ancestors were brought here. Not all your ancestors came on slave ships. Some of your ancestors were never enslaved. We get that. Everybody has a reason why they're in America. We cannot single Black people out and say, oh, you're fleeing, you don't deserve to be here. I hope you're saying that to Indians and all these other people who are coming here. People, this is a melting pot. Hello? This country was, just a minute, this country was not made for just one group. The only authentic people in this country are the Native Americans. Let's be clear on that. So stop saying you're fleeing. I didn't flee Africa. I came here because I wanted to go to college. There weren't enough universities for me to attend when I needed to attend university. And my father said, well, they registered me to into a university here. So we weren't fleeing. Some maybe, but not all of us. And so I think it's important to have that conversation. Then there's this, I think who suffered more is a false argument or wrong framework. That's right, Akachineke. That's correct. We shouldn't be talking about who suffered more. We all suffered. We're still suffering, even to this day. It hasn't ended. It hasn't stopped.
Mr. Godpox don't understand that, whatever the hell his name is.
We are all suffering. And African people, let's get off this nonsense about, who suffered more. It's not important. It's can we come together and support each other? That's what's important. Not who suffered more. I can't tell you, if I tell you my own personal suffering, and you probably didn't go through anything. You personally, right, all this stuff. And this person says Europeans were not slaves in America. They were indentured servants. That was a response to you, Dibia Chedozie. You want to address that, please?
Yeah, I've already addressed it. The truth of the matter is that Europeans exported Europeans to Americas. That's the point I want to make. Yes, in Africa, we were induced to do what we did. Okay? So, but the truth of the matter is that man's humanity to fellow human being is similar throughout the whole earth, because of all species of animals, though we call ourselves rational animals, but we are the only species that feed on our kind. Other lesser animals don't feed. I've not seen any other animal that feeds and hunts on its own kind, except for us. And so it's a normal thing. However, Europeans are able to bond, Indians are able to bond because they have one common culture, one common religion. Like I said in the past, it is not difficult for any European American in America to trace his roots. You don't hear European America. What you hear is German America, Irish American, British American. When it comes to British America, it's difficult for him to hear British and American. The man that sang I'm an Englishman in New York didn't say he's a Briton in New York, so he's an Englishman in New York. And when you watch WrestleMania, you don't hear Seth Freaky Rollins of Britain, it's of Ireland, or Drew McIntyre of Britain, it is of Wales and Scotland, or Gentleman Prince Adam of Britain, is of England. And so they are able to trace their ethnicity. That's the point that we need to make. But in the case of Africans or African Americans, yes, we move from the name Black America to African Americans. It's just a branding. But the real problem is that they were taken away when there was no Nigeria, no Ghana, no new states created in Africa that existed. They were taken away from Mali, from Burkina Faso. They were taken away from traditional African settings like Igbo land, and Igbo land, one Igbo community, one Yoruba community, one community in Angola, and so on and so forth. And so tracing back those communities is a relink to spirituality. So whereas Africans lost their spirituality in the process of being enslaved, Europeans did not. They are still connected to their spirituality because when they were exported on their own terms. But we Africans that were taken as slaves to America, to the Americas, we are not taking on their own terms. And so they can easily rally around. That's why it was easy for the European Americans to coordinate themselves and told the Queen, no taxation without representation. and they voted against the order of the Queen. But Africans in Africa, in the diaspora, have not been able to do so. We all know the treachery and various treachery the Haitian Revolution went through. And it took place because Oliver Duverger said it had to go on. The revolution was leaked and they were going to be apprehended. So they just had to try their luck, and it worked. And I think this time around too, there was some secrecy because there were some secrecy on the deity of Ogun. They used the deity of Ogun to ensure some kind of secrecy. In spite of that, some of it leaked. And so the greatest problem Africa is facing today, which the rest of the world know, and which the dictators of world affairs know, is that Africa has no rallying point. And they will never give that to us. So they will gladly monetize the reparation because they know how to get back the money to their own places. Any money they give to us, whether it's in the diaspora or it is in Africa, will end back with them.
Yeah.
So that's not what we need. What we need are our identity that were lost. We are still there. The traditional communities are still there. So it is only in Africa that you have traditional communities or nations that are older than the states. Like in Nigeria, you say Nigeria is going to be 65 this year, or is it 66? And then the communities that make up Nigeria, none of them is less than 1,000 years. If you take out 65 from 1,000 years, you still have 900 and something years. And that 900 and something years, you have to add it to the 1,000. So what you have is not 1,000, you have 1,000 plus. So if you still remove the 65, that ethnic nation is still 1,000 years older than Nigeria. And then you ask the governor that is representing the colonial order to be the one that will decide who is going to be the Obi of Onitsha or the Oba of Benin. It is not the people who will decide. So everything is being messed up. And that's why we say if we do not fight that today and we keep arguing who is superior, who is inferior, then we are blind of the future, because after this century, there will be no more any authentic Africa, whether in the diaspora or in Africa. That is the problem we should be fighting today, not monetize reparation.
True.
Thank you. I have thank you for that. Can you address Akachi? The reality is everyone has become something they were not prior to invasion, enslavement, colonization. Igbos became Nigerians, Bini became Africans, Negroes, then Black Americans, etc.
Yeah, we first I want to thank Dibia Round Table for being on this show and being part of it and joining us as much as we possibly can, and all the challenges. We really do appreciate it. I appreciate you, Gile, for spearheading this program that is really needed, because we need to educate people like Gorpox over here, so that they could be a little bit more tuned in to what's happening. Otherwise, they'll be left behind, while those that want to do the real work and understand the issues, like Akachi, has demonstrated time and time again when she shows up on the show. And she came in raw with questions and all that. And I read some of her responses, and I find out that she is now tuned in. And it's a matter of time before she decides on which way she's going to contribute to this effort of emancipation. So kudos to her and all our listeners that have stayed with us. She's absolutely right. Dibia Round Table talked about the balkanization, and the balkanize your name, the balkanize your country, the balkanize your tribe, the balkanize you outside and inside. What you see is not what was. The African American became African American because of this balkanization. The Jamaican became Jamaican because of this balkanization. We become something that we're not. We were the Igbo tribe doing our own thing. We traded with the Yorubas and whoever else we had to deal with around us. Then here comes the British. We're no longer Igbo, we're not Nigerians. Here comes the British. We're no longer Yoruba, we're Nigerians. Here comes the British. We're no longer Hausa, we're Nigerians. We're no longer this. Well, whatever it is that they defined us as, because of one reason and one reason only, how do we control this resource? their ability to fight back. How do we control it? We have to balkanize it. Not only do we have to balkanize them physically, we also have to balkanize them mentally. So you have Africans all over the world thinking they are what they are not, in trying to redefine themselves away from what the European did to them when he put them in different categories that they primordially didn't belong to. So suddenly, some people now think, oh, my ancestors didn't come in here as slaves. We were here. They forget the fact that Africans were here 1,000 years ago. We traveled. We traded with the Aztecs, with the Mayans, with the Incas. We traded with the Olmecs. It's documented. We sailed over here 1,000 years ago during the time of Mansa Musa, before slavery came here. So just the fact that your ancestors didn't come in here as slaves don't make you any less African than those that came in as slaves. Just because you came in and you were in the belly of a ship, a boat, just because you weren't tossed overboard. Millions of Africans buried in the Atlantic Ocean, coming over here, just because your lineage was not one of those, doesn't make you any more or less African than I am, or those that were in the belly of that boat. So you could shut up with the idea that something makes you special. After all, my ancestors didn't show up here because I was born in Africa. So whoever lineage I came from didn't step foot over here. Maybe my cousin did, but from my daddy to my grandfather to my great-granddaddy to whoever, I'm connected and grounded in Africa. But that doesn't make me any more special than you or anybody else. Because according to Peter Tosh, no matter where you come from, if you're Black, you're African. So they get food because they didn't step up off of no slave ship that you think that you're less African or that you're more special. Let me tell you something else too, and then I'll define something to you. Chattel slavery is a system where one person has total ownership of another, treating human beings as legal property, chattel. That's what chattel means, legal property that can be bought, sold, and inherited, predominant in the Americas from the 16th century. It was a race-based hereditary system of lifelong bondage, largely powered Southern United States economic growth. So whether Africans sold slaves or not, for whatever reason, maybe it was captured people in battle that they sold, to anybody else. We never practiced chattel slavery in Africa. Indians, Native Americans bought white slaves, bought black slaves. African Americans bought black slaves here and sold them back to white folks. So shut up with your feeling of superiority, because you're nothing superior about you. You're just like any other brother and sister out there.
I'm going to end this program with this conversation. When Africans come to America, they isolate themselves from Black Americans and align with the white supremacist power structure against Black Americans. Well, let me tell you something, brother Chris Walker. I never have aligned myself with anybody but African Americans since I came to this country. I'm married to an African American. My children are African American. I've always done, even the work that I do, is based on uplifting the African American community. Don't put us Africans in the same basket to suit your own racist thoughts. You are saying exactly what the Europeans want you to say about Africans. Divide and conquer. You are making statements that have nothing to do with reality. You don't know African Americans who come in here and want to be like with white people. You don't know that. There may be some people who do that way, but I'm going to tell you something. I have experienced racism at the hands of Black America myself.
Thank you. I have too.
I had a roommate who did not even want to be associated with Black people. She made sure that they told her that they removed her from my room because I was a jungle bunny. That was an African American. That was no European.
Yeah, I mean, they want to go there now, so let's go there. I went
through at the hands of Black America when I came here. But you know what? They don't represent all of Black America. It's just a few ignorant people. So I leave it at that.
But the fools over here think that this represents all Africans.
Ignorant thoughts, because I can tell you right now, I have met some wonderful, fantastic African Americans since I came to this country. I've met African Americans who wanted me to feel welcome, that I'm a part of the community. Mr. and Mrs. Burke, who made sure that I was never alone during holidays when I was in college. I've met African Americans, real African Americans with good heart, who understand that, as we say in Igbo language, we are brothers and sisters. I've met such African Americans. And then I've met those who have been Europeanized in their thinking. Those who think that they are better than Africans, who call us jungle bunnies, who tell us to go back where we came from, who call us all kinds of names, darky, name it. I was called that, not by white folks, but black people.
Yep,
But you know what?
in Alabama.
I knew that they didn't represent Black America. They were just a faction of Black Americans that were ignorant. It was not all of Black America. So today I am embracing African American culture, African American people, because there are many of them that represent what I believe in, and that is love, kindness. They are such African Americans. So I never go back to Africa to tell them about the kind of African Americans that I met in college. I go home and I tell them about the beautiful African Americans. I've taken African Americans home and we treated them like kings and queens. Do you know that? When they come to Africa, we bring out the kings, we bring out the red carpet for them. Because
the reparation is for them, not for anybody else.
These are the African Americans that I know. Not your kind of African Americans. I know African Americans who believe in unity, who believe in the principles of Kwanzaa. I know such African Americans. I honor them. I respect them. Those are the African Americans I know, and those are the ones I relate to. I don't relate to the ignorant ones that think Africans are bad. Africans are this, Africans are that. Unity requires that you do your homework. You don't base what you know on what people said. I don't base what I know on what people say. And Chiism, here we talk about the unification of the Black world. We're not here to divide and conquer. I don't hate any African American. If you want to be ignorant, go ahead. Be ignorant, have at it. That I will always, as an African from the continent, I will always honor the great Americans, the great African Americans that made it possible for many of us to come here. And we appreciate that. We know those African Americans.
And they say African Americans can be racist. I mean, the racism right now is something else.
Get the way, and it is not none of people like you talking all this nonsense. So I'm going to end this program, and I want to thank all of you. It was a lively, even those that I disagree with. Thank you for sharing your thoughts.
It was great
because there's an African proverb that says that means
beautiful.
You give me respect, I give you a respect. If you don't give it to me, I'll give it right back to you. We are not going to tolerate division. So if I see division, I'm going to speak on it. If you don't want to speak on it, it's on you. Go ahead on. Live with it. Do you, as they say, do you. Thank you, Akachi, for your wisdom. Thank you for all of you. Even, what's his name? Go Pox. He says he wanted to come in and have a conversation with us. I will invite you. It will be my pleasure to invite you to come
get him in. Let him defend his position.
Yes, I will invite him. Let him come and
get him in.
Because he has a lot to say. But anyway, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank when all is said and done, Black is Black, honey. I don't care where you find yourself. We are one, whether you like it or not. I do not separate myself from Black America. Black Americans are my ancestors are Black Americans. It came from Africa, and that means that we are one, and we're going to fight this battle together, whether we like it or not. Dibia Chedozie, y'all guys here, my brother. Thank you so much for making it. Yeah, you did. Y'all guys here, everybody. I love all of you. You take care. We're one.
That's what we needed. Thank you, Mr. Gopox. We love you.
Well, everybody has an opinion. It's okay to be heard.
Okay child of God. Thank you. Ronin,
thank you, everyone.
Chris Walker, all of them. Akachi.
All of them.
Yeah.
Take care now. Y'all guys.